All right, cool. Sorry about that. Never used GoToMeeting before. Okay, so why am I here? I'm a senior PFE for Microsoft, and I am part of the legacy FAST acquisition about 4 years ago. And I've been with FAST before that a little over a year beyond that. So I've been with Microsoft a total of over 5 years now. Work in a small group called AMS, and what we do is we are application management support or services. We do full search management. We have some customers that we actually still host as a legacy, but most of our bread and butter is we manage and administrate all of SharePoint and FastFarm for them. So this slide is just a little bit from my my boss. So he pays the bills, so he gets one slide. And again, quick little table of contents, just an overview of what we're going to do today. Some common issues, the most common SharePoint issues that pop up, some tools to debug those issues, quick little case study with a pharmaceutical company, some speed up recommendations, and then I'll open it up to some questions. Thank you. All right, so a quick high-level overview of the feeding chain from the daemon point of view is that we start from the SharePoint app server. The main parts of the jobs that the app server take care of in the crawling and feeding level is the crawler components. They're pretty heavy, they're always working, and luckily you can scale them up. When you have FAST as a back end and you're indexing documents with FAST from your SharePoint installation, the crawl components will pass the information directly to the content distributor. Content distributor is a basic small little daemon that just says this is where this item should go, breaks down batches to dump to item processing. Item processing is a huge subject all on its own. I think you had a long talk a couple weeks ago with Steve Kunzil. I'll say his last name's tough. And I mean, you could go a week. There's developer training that just talks about this. That's pretty hefty part of FAST and indexing your documents. From there, it gets passed to the indexing dispatcher, which sends the information to an indexer. Okay. Inside the indexing nodes, there's split indexing partitions. Documents move from one partition to the other until they come to an archive partition if they're not being used or they're blacklisted. All right, so a quick review of how the feeding chain works. This is pretty common with SharePoint feeding, and this is the actual layout for how the fast feeding works from SharePoint. So a quick review of the crawler is that it's stateless. That's the number one thing that we have to remember, right, is that if one drops off, it's just going to start up and go to another one. It can start and stop anytime it wants to. It's componentized, obviously. You can split it up into 10 crawler components if you want. SQL backend, everything on the crawler is very CPU bound. It's heavy duty on CPU. If your systems are taxed CPU, you know what the problem is. Like I said, scalable. Best practices with a small to medium fast installation is just 2 crawler components. If you have too many, you could definitely overwhelm the rest of the machines. So when you request a new crawl, for example, if you fire up a new content source in Central Admin, it gets logged to the Fast Content SSA admin database. SharePoint admin component picks it up and stores it in the crawl database. And then next in the line here is what's called a master crawler component. And a good thing to note here is that there's really no hierarchy for crawler components. It's just that one's a master. If that gets blown away, another one picks it up. That's just basically telling which components to go where and what it should be doing with which documents it should be crawling. It's auto-elect. Okay. So, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
How much of the CPU performance you need if you have, for example, one virtual machine?
Okay.
And same specs of the standalone server?
Well, I mean, really what you want to do is take a look at your perfmon if you're running a crawler component on a VM. And what a crawl component for SharePoint will do is take up a max of 85% of the CPU. So if you see your peak up to 85% and it's just sitting at 85%, you're basically running out of CPU. Your crawler is taking everything it can, and that. Mm-hmm. From a VM to an actual server. I mean, you do see a little overhead with VMs, obviously. That's tough to call. I mean, it depends on the spec, and it's not parallel. But I mean, people say anywhere from 5 to 15, 20% for between actual hardware to VMs. Like I said, depending on the system. From there, once the data is passed into fast search, it gets broken down into batches of about 100 before it gets sent to the content distributor within fast. And fast search will put those files into a proprietary XML called FixML before it completes an index of those documents that's searchable. Once that's done, there will be a callback back to the content SSA crawl database that basically just says, this is what was going on, here's our history. Is there any more crawl queue additions? Say if there's another site that gets added onto, there's going to be more crawls the next time it gets run. Okay, here's the big one. It's common issues. The top ones are the top one here is the certificate expires. Basically, there is a communications channel between SharePoint and FAST that is encrypted, and there's a self-signed certificate that comes with it that gets generated at install time. A lot of people don't know this, but it's just a year. Only after a year it expires. So, say in March you start, working with FAST and getting your SharePoint installation working with it, and that goes through a dev period for a few months and QA, and then it goes live around December. You completely forget about that, and then in March comes around and your cert expires. So what that looks like is a crawler will just kind of run forever, and you don't really realize why. Like, you start getting customers asking you, why is this data not updating? Why are these security bits not being changed? It's basically because your cert's expired, and I'll show you an easy way to test that, and a nice little script later on to just dump into a task and have it email you. Let's see, crawler add delete. Like, where are my documents? There's a nice little note here about pre-SP1. If you haven't installed SharePoint SP1 in your systems, there's this really big bug that has a lot of gotchas that not a lot of people have seen, is that if you run a full crawl on a set of documents and it picks up a document, during the next crawl it shows up in search. People say, oh, I don't want that, so we remove it, or the document just doesn't exist anymore on the server. It'll go back around, and if the crawler sees it as a 404, it will basically stick around for 30 days before it gets removed from the index. And that's SharePoint or FAST. Doesn't matter what you're talking about there. SP1 fixes that issue. It is configurable, but the defaults are set to be that if you have a document that's 404'd, it takes up to 30 days for it to be removed from the index. There's a PowerShell script or PowerShell commandlet called get SP Enterprise Search Application. And if you just do kind of a yeah, that's exactly true. So basically, what you're saying is the default settings pre-SP1 are way out there too. I don't know if they were made so that it wouldn't just delete things. I'm not sure what the thought behind it was, but it's configurable. SP1 fixes it. Definitely recommend installing SP1. Let's see. So not a lot of people mentioned that they were looking at fast, but slow crawls happens to be one of the biggest issues that we're seeing right now. Just out of the box, usually we're seeing 8 to 10 documents per second being ingested into your index. And I have a nice little list here of 5 different issues, a couple from fast and the top from SharePoint, and I'll go over those. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go right ahead. It's a small, so.
I have a lot of customers that ask me, I set up their college, how many documents should I receive?
Yeah, me too.
And I'm always very cagey about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a rule of thumb in your mind for a particular content source.
Well, I mean, most of the customers that I'm seeing right now, they're pulling in from SharePoint 2007 or 2010. That is probably about 90% of the documents that are coming in. There's obviously some other connectors, JVC, VCS, and those are kind of their own animals all in themselves. But if it's just SharePoint 2007 and 2010, ideally, if it's a small to medium-sized with 2 crawlers, you want to definitely see about 40 to 55 documents per second. And you can see that in the status page. If everything's tuned correctly and your bottlenecks are, tuned out, then you can see that easily. Yeah, if in your content SSA.
Is that pretty accurate? You can see the same thing.
That's a pretty good. Basically, what that's doing is every 5 minutes it just pings the database to see how many documents are pulled in, and then it just kind of makes an average. So you can see wild spikes going. I mean, you just hit refresh, you'll see 30, 55, 25. So yeah, the admin reports are definitely a way to go, and you can also do a doc count. I can show you that in a few minutes. Just run a doc count, and then just kind of space out the times, what documents are being updated. Like I said, there's not a lot of fast yet. So, but if you want to troubleshoot this issue and you are running fast, I always say with troubleshooting, just divide and conquer. If it's a fast issue, it's fast farm. If it's SharePoint, it's a SharePoint farm. So the easiest way with fast is to shut down or suspend indexing in fast. After you've run a full crawl, suspend the indexing, run the full crawl again, and see how long it took. If there's any differences, if it speeds up, then it's a fast issue. Because basically, if you're suspending indexing, you're just writing to a file. It's not really doing anything. Fast is doing nothing. You see your I/O drop off. So if it's speeding up, it's saying basically that SharePoint's not the issue. It's dumping stuff to fast. Fast is backing up. It's causing an issue there. So just doing that one troubleshooting bit will tell you if it's a fast or SharePoint issue. Well, if you suspend indexing, yeah, I'll show you how to do that. It's very, very simple. But if it is a fast issue, document processors. You always have to add more document processors. This is the first thing I look at when you look at a new customer or a customer issue comes in for slow crawling, is that how many document processors do you have? Let's look at your document processor logs. Basically what happens with document processors is every document that comes in, it will stack up a bit of memory, and it will hold it up to about 2 gigs of memory, and then it will do a soft reset. And once that soft reset happens, it clears the memory, and it will show that in the logs. So if that's happening all the time, basically that's a great telltale sign saying that you don't have enough. And adding them is very, very simple. It's one command line. So always check your memory and CPU on the machines that are running document processors in case there's a problem. Okay, what's next here? Indexer I/O. So indexer I/O architecture. The way fast indexes is once it gets the information all the way through the feeding chain, this is the last part of the feeding chain. And usually it's one of the largest bottlenecks. And the reason that happens is that it's extremely I/O intensive. Basically you're taking XML files, creating these large data blobs from the XML files so you can search on them very fast. We've seen ridiculous amounts of IOPS where indexing takes about 3,500 IOPS, and if that's comparison to like a hard drive that you have in your laptop, which is about 250, it can handle up to 250 IOPS. So just compared to that, it's very heavy, as well as the SQL databases hits. So that's the next step is the SharePoint crawl databases. We've seen MCS people complain about how the crawl databases are just getting absolutely slammed when we do full crawls. We see database locks all the time. All of their I/O is taking up, and if they have crawl databases on shared SQL instances, then the other people are getting bumped out too, and they're not happy about it. So that's definitely one of the first steps you want to look if you're looking at SharePoint. Okay, right down the line for SharePoint is the front-end settings. This is a very common bottleneck, and the reason for it is that SharePoint out of the box tries to implement a reasonable amount of load that that users can hit on a system. Sure, if you've seen that, there's a couple different settings that you can check and bump out to say, this many users can hit the system at once. They're basically like DDoS settings to make sure that the systems don't get hammered and taken down. And so they just kind of set HTTP wait for them, and so users will finally get hits to the systems. So if a crawler is hitting one of your front ends really hard, and you also have a bunch of users hitting it and searching at the same time, you'll see crawls slow down. And the third is the crawl components themselves. So like I said a little earlier when you asked that question, is that CPU on crawler components will take up to 85% of this system. That doesn't mean won't have 100% of the system, but the processes for the actual crawl component, 85%. It's very, very simple to spin up another VM and set up another crawl component. It's easy, it's cheap, and it's free to do that. So it's definitely recommended and can speed up your crawls considerably. That's not suggested. I don't think that you can do that. It's a good question. I can't say that I'm not saying that you can't do that, but I don't know why you would, because it's multi-threaded for the crawl components. Yeah. Yep. So that's interesting. I'll try to do that though. That's interesting. There's a lot of performance counters for the crawl components. If you have the crawl component installed on the machine, you can look at perfmon for like batches ready, batches submitted, and batches open. Those are definitely one of the largest ones you can see where SharePoint will be, crawl components would be backing up. And the processor time, obviously. But let me just give you kind of a summary on this slide, because it's if you take anything away from this talk at all, these are the things that you should really look at if you have any issues with crawlers slowing down on your systems. But docprocs will use up RAM, and you can add them until RAM is completely taken up. So you can only go as fast as your web interface can handle, or you can talk to your database, or your docprocs can process, or your disk I/O can handle. I think that's pretty common for most applications, but if you keep that in mind, you can get those bugs worked out and your issues resolved. So I did have a customer with one crawler and a VM that was set up by I think internal people to the company. They're a pharmaceutical company. All of their documents are pretty high level. They have a really high dictionary rate, and managed property. So all of their documents are really large in the index. Crawl times were taking for 8 to 9 million documents. They were taking 72 hours till whenever. Basically, they were running forever. The VM was running 85% CPU. And the transactions queued in the administrator reports were into the millions, like 15 to 20 million, just waiting to be worked on. We saw lots of really strange problems like the CPU load on the crawler and database table locks all over the place on both of the on the crawler database. So now they're seeing 45 to 55 documents per second sustained, and most of that was just because we added another crawler component, and we separated their database away from their. They were using SQL for a couple other applications. We separated it to its own on bigger hardware, and I mean 45 to 55 documents per second is pretty quick, and that's what you want to see for a small to medium installation. If that's a number that you're looking for. Absolutely.
So a lot of batches waiting.
Yeah.
So I guess, and maybe my logic is flawed, but I see
No.
batches waiting, then I think my crawler component is doing its job, and I go. But you're saying that we're able to solve it by spinning up other call components.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have more batches. So bottleneck is on the other side of it.
That is true, but you're also, if you think about it, the back end to those crawler components are database driven. So every transaction it makes, it has to basically go to a crawl database and say, this is what we did, this is what we did, because they're stateless. Say again? They both do. Crawler and the database, and the fast farm will go back for callbacks to the database and say, these are different things that we found, or this document was updated. So when the crawler runs, it makes this gigantic to-do list, and that's what the queue report is in the advanced reports on the content SSA. And what's going on there is that the crawler has all the stuff to do, and it's going out and hitting the database, and it's actually doing the crawls, sending it through the feeding pipeline. But once it gets through that pipeline, the indexer callbacks from the fast system is going to go to that database as well, to the crawler database, and say, these things were done. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're spreading out your communication over.
Both. Yeah, because you can set up different crawler components, but you can also set up more databases, crawl databases. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of talking about that report. This is what we were seeing constantly for them. It's like 15 million documents just sitting in the to-do to just do nothing. Once we did add those, the second crawler, so this 8 to 9 million documents being processed over, I don't know, what is that? Less than 2.5 days. So, and then nothing would be in the queue. This is a complete full crawl, top to bottom. So, So there are a couple tools that come with FAST and SharePoint that most of this information is pulled from. If you have any problems with your crawler and you're calling support or you're looking for issues, these are the things that they're going to ask, they're going to hit first. So if you want to take a look at them as well, it's probably a good place to start. I'll show you them in the demo. And that is now. So So first of all, I want to look at where did I find that that admin report, where it shows the big to-do list for the crawler. And as you can see here, I'm on the content SSA, and right here for administration reports. This is just a lab setup, so it's not really doing that much. I'm just going to show you where it is. So it's in the reports. These are all great to look at. And the biggest one that we want to look at all the time and that generated the last images that we saw on the screen is the crawl queue. And like I said a little bit earlier, this is basically the crawl's to-do list. If that to-do list is growing, there's definitely some kind of bottleneck in your feeding chain, and that could be from the beginning to the end. Okay. So I promised a little scriptable bit of information for PowerShell that will give you a nice little output. And I did put this on my, oops, that's not right. I did put this on my blog. If you search for me, it's easy to find. Okay, performance report. Where's that? Of course. So basically what this is just doing is it's just hitting your cert store and asking when does the fast search certificate expire. You can add this to an easy task to just say, email this to me once a week so I don't forget about it. It's definitely something that's recommended because everybody forgets about it. It's a big problem, and you can actually set this to a your own self-signed certificate that never expires or expires in 300 years. That's definitely the recommendation if you're going to install this at a customer and then walk away from it, so they don't have to deal with this another time. Okay. If you ever have a problem and you call support, this is what they're going to ask you to run first. And basically what this does is it goes out in a multi-node system. This is only a one-node system. Multi-node system will go out to all of your nodes and collect all of the logs that pertain to any fast issues. Great place to start. Once you fire that up, it runs pretty quickly on a single node system, obviously, and puts it into a zip file. That'll do is give you a directory under your fast search directory, var, log, info tool. And all the information here, obviously you can see I run it a few times. And what it will do is say when it ran in this little zip file with all the logs pulled in from all of the systems. Great place to start if you want to see if there's any kind of issue. I'll just give you a quick example. One of the good ones to look at here is the all log or the last error. This will pop exactly what it says, the last error with your fast farm, even if it's you know, a lost connection with your indexer, and it has to be an error level version. So as you can see here, there's some kind of WCF service communications problem between SharePoint and FAST. So Yeah, absolutely. It's just running on your admin node. If your admin node is pretty idle, you can run it. All it's doing is WCF log pulling information down from the systems. And what it will do is it will just like tail 50 from a log file if it's over 100 meg, so you're not pulling down these enormous files. Obviously, you want to check for disk space in case there's any issue there. But great place to start. You can see a list of all of your host names of your multi-node system and look at all these and see if there's any issues. And like I said, if you call support, this is the first thing they're going to look at. And they're also going to just go through all these issues and ask you or say, this is your problem, or go over the problems with you. So one other kind of back-end thing for FAST that really isn't well documented is RC. And what RC does is it goes and pulls all of the back-end data and every single line item for FAST and drops it into a how does this? Oops. So what this is doing is going through all of the system, and this is just a single node system. You can imagine how much data it is for a multi-node system. Goes through every single component and says, what is your status? What's going on? And what are you doing? What daemons are running? What version are you? So this is a great information if you're looking for a specific issue, say like if your indexer is having any problems, or you have a backup row that's not synced. This is the only way to view it. What's that? RC. RC-R. And I mean, if you take some time and look through this, you can see that there's a lot of data here. So, all right, and let's see. The other things that you wanted to see was the indexer admin, right? So that's really all you have to do to, remember I was saying earlier, to do a troubleshooting issue, you just have to suspend indexing. That's all you do. And it will suspend your indexing, start running a full crawl again, and if your SharePoint crawl speeds up, then this is the problem. Something in this is broken. Okay. The A does it all. That would be for a multi-node system again. And to resume it, it's resume indexing. Okay. A great little piece of information is indexer info. What this will do is, like I was saying a little bit earlier, is that if you want to do counts to your system, say, how many documents are actually getting put into the system and what's it doing? The index is broken down into 5 partitions by default, and all of the information here is saying that the status is idle. It's actually not working. It's not doing anything. When you start getting and crawling data, these statuses will update with a percentage of what they're doing. And basically what they're doing is taking an old version of the index, turning it into an old, and then creating a new one with all of the updated documents or documents that have been deleted. And then once that is created and checksummed, it will delete the old version. That's correct. So you know a lot about it. That's called yeah. So there's a soft limit on columns for indexing, and it's 15 million. There 40. Yeah, that's called high density. And I have seen problems with that. There are definitely some cons with that, is that it will increase your search latency, and it will slow down your crawls. So just keep that in mind if that's something that you want to do or have a customer that's doing that.
Doing that,
Mhm.
and when you suspend your indexing, just walk through again what happens. You get a patch asked and ship.
Yep.
It gets to your mass from indexing is suspended, so what actually happens?
It gets written to a file. Go back here. I don't know if there's going to be any. Oops. So in this directory here, the data fixML directory under your fast search data, there will be a proprietary XML file there, and all of that information will be. Let's see if we can show you a quick little clip of what it looks like. That's correct. So yeah, once you suspend indexing, the files come in and it's written to this directory in an XML format, basically from all of your document processing that's gone through, and your pipeline. And once you resume indexing, the indexer will look in this directory and create the indexers off that file. Off of those files. That's correct. Well, it does write it. Well, it writes it to. It never writes it to the index. That's correct. So if you
in an ideal sort of efficiently running system,
Yep.
you're saying that lead times are literally the same. How much would be the same?
correct.
Doesn't slow it down to actually.
Well, it does, but if indexing isn't your bottleneck, it won't slow the feeding chain down higher up off the feeding chain. Yeah, that's correct. But I mean, something to think about too is that if you suspend indexing and you're running a full crawl, that the changes from your search corpus will be not updated until you resume the indexing. Okay, just something to definitely think about. All right, that's kind of all I have for the demo right now. We are definitely running a little late, so I'll just go over the next steps here. So there are some other tools of trade that we use that are add-ons. PAL is basically a perfmon that's very highly configurable. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but there are some great data points in FAST and SharePoint crawler components that you can use to ingest into PAL or perfmon to monitor your bits and your performance. Show all, I'm going to go over a couple of these things in a minute. Show all is something that we use a lot for showing why things show up in search on your enterprise search page. I'll show you that in a second. Get fixML is a script that's online, and all of these scripts again are in the reference at the end of this, and I'll show you a quick version of this too. So get fixML is something that you can pass an ID to, an internal ID, and it will dump the actual fixML for the file to just a text file, and that's human readable. And then there's Flare, which is an add-on tool that I can show you for performance. So this is what show all looks like. What a lot of people like to do is create a separate enterprise search center. And when you do that and do a search, you can see here all of the information, the title that's picked up, the author, all of this information. And the really good information that you want to see here is the internal ID. This is an actual internal ID that's written to the system that gets tracked through the index in the fixML. And it will work its way up also through the crawler database. So if you look at your ULS logs, you'll see these internal IDs for URLs and documents that are picked up. So
Showing all the managed properties that are asking you for results.
that's correct. It's just an add-on web part. It's in a link that I can show you later, and it will just dump all of the information that you see here. So you can. That's right, exactly. Yeah, on the SFE, if you do the show all debug mode, it's the same as this, same information. So very helpful for debugging issues, and I mean, the biggest thing that you want to see here is that an easy way to track these IDs. Okay, the getFixML script is great as well. Basically, what it's doing here is if you give it one of these IDs, it will write that fixML to a word-readable document and also pass the ACL information to you as well. That's a very new add-on to getFixML, and it's pretty nice to see that what users can get it and what users can't. So, and this is what it looks like on our write-out. Here you can see exactly how the XML file is written, the source, and all of the information on how it's picked up. So if you're having issues with your ACLs, or if you are setting a new managed property that you want to get picked up, all that information will be here, so you can use later on. And I'm going to show you Flare really quick. Flare is something extremely new that just came out, and what it's doing is it takes all the information from query reports and the logs from Fast Search for SharePoint, and it will actually generate reports and give you nice little like Silverlight graphs. And unfortunately, this is only available from the services team right now, but it's looking to be passed out to everybody soon. So some other good things here other than just your performance report. You can break this down into monthly. Right now this is just a test, so there's only a few days in here. But something that's really great for search administrators is the popular query report. This will dump out your tokens for the best, basically best search is what people are looking for. If you look at these enormous total searches, you can make in your enterprise, you could set best bets for these, or try to increase relevancy. That's a whole other talk by itself. So unfortunately, you have to talk to a TAM to get that right now, but it's looking to be, like I said, it's going to be released to the public, hopefully in the near future. So just a quick summary is that SP1 and at least the June CU for both SharePoint and FAST, if that's possible. That fixes a lot of strange crawler issues and indexing problems. Add docprocs. Like I said, you can't have too many docprocs unless it's completely eating up all of your memory on your system. Memory's cheap. Add a new physical hardware crawler if you can. If you're running a VM crawler, try adding a hardware crawler, see what happens. I bet you'd be very surprised. You can also set up, like I said a little bit earlier, you can set up a separate crawler database, and it's basically doing the same thing. You're just passing out the work to another database. Check your performance, PAL, perfmon, and suspend indexing and check your perf again. That will tell you where your issue is. All right, we've had a lot of good questions already. I just want to show you that there is some resources on this deck, so if you want that information, you can. I also jumped in here. There's a great PAL config if you want to put all the FAST and crawler component information into PAL and look at the bits that you need. But if you have any questions. We already had some great questions between you guys. Does anybody else have any questions? In a small group, we just kind of kept it personal. But we're done. Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. They were great. They were almost like fielded. It's great. If you have any more, if you can't think of any right now and you want to hit me up, do a search for my name and you'll find me. I don't hide. And I love answering questions, and I love having weird questions and So, yeah, exactly. So, two crawler components on one system. That's something I'm going to test out tomorrow.